reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew.
Glory to you, O Lord.
When John the Baptist heard in prison of the works of the Christ, he sent his disciples to Jesus with this question: "Are you the one who is to come, or should we look for another?" Jesus said to them in reply, "Go and tell John what you hear and see. The blind regain their sight, the lame walk, lepers are cleansed, the deaf hear, the dead are raised, and the poor have the good news proclaimed to them. And blessed is the one who takes no offense at me." As they were going off, Jesus began to speak to the crowds about John. "What did you go out to the desert to see? A reed swayed by the wind? Then what did you go out to see? Someone dressed in fine clothing? Those who wear fine clothing are in royal palaces. Then why did you go out? To see a prophet? Yes, I tell you, and more than a prophet. This is the one about whom it is written, 'Behold, I am sending my messenger ahead of you. He will prepare your way before you.' Amen, I say to you, among those born of women, there has been none greater than John the Baptist. Yet the least in the kingdom of heaven is greater than he." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
John the Baptist sent his disciples to ask Jesus this question: "Are you the one who is to come, or should we look for another?" In other words, you look like you could be the Messiah, but we don't quite know. Jesus answered him with this beautiful prophecy that we just read in the book of Isaiah. "Go tell John, the blind regain their sight, the lame walk, lepers are cleansed, the deaf hear, the dead are raised, and the poor have the good news preached to them." That should be enough of an answer. But then Jesus followed up with a question that pertained not only to John, but to himself. He asked, "When you went out into the wilderness, what were you all hoping to see? You went to hear the words of a prophet, didn't you? Why did you do that?" Well, why indeed? It's really not that hard to understand at all, is it? Because we would all do the same thing. We would be intrigued by someone like John. Some of us would go out there just to be entertained. We might hope to actually witness a real miracle. Maybe we would want to be healed ourselves. Maybe we'd just be looking for something to give us some hope or something to believe in. But the real question that Jesus is leading all of them, us to, is what if you go out there and discover that John the Baptist is the real deal? Will you listen to him? And what if you become convinced that I am the fulfillment of this prophecy, indeed that I am the Messiah? Will you take offense at me? Paul McCartney of the Beatles, I hope everybody knows who the Beatles are. Last night there was a very poor representation. You know who the Beatles are? Okay, there's a few hands, good. He tells the story of recording with the rest of the band in his home studio when he heard someone at the door. He said, I opened the door and there was this young bloke there, got long hair and a beard and kind of looked like a hippie. And I asked him, "What can I do for you? And what's your name?" And he said to me, "I am Jesus." He goes, "You're Jesus?" He said, "Yes, I am Jesus." He said, "Who?" "Well, if you're Jesus, you better come in here and sit down for a cup of tea." He said, I didn't know. I didn't think he was Jesus, but I didn't know. And we don't want to be that guy in the story, so come on in. And I don't know if Paul McCartney was a believer in any at all, but it is interesting, though, that almost everyone would intuitively recognize that if Jesus were real, it would be a big deal. And Paul continues his story. He said, I asked Jesus if he would like to join us in our studio. I went to the guys and I told them, there's a fellow out here who claims to be Jesus. I don't think he's Jesus, but I don't know. And he said, would it be all right if he came in and listened to us record? And which is actually a very beautiful gesture, to think that not only would you invite Jesus in for tea, you would invite him to be a part of what you were doing. And they said, fine, as long as he's quiet. He said, so I brought Jesus into the studio, and I sat him in a chair, and I said, there now, you sit in this chair, and you just be Jesus, and don't make a sound. It sounds like a really cute story, doesn't it? There's some really wonderful elements in it, but the more you think about the end of this story, the worse it is, because it's really very much a modern day response to Jesus, and one that any one of us here in our spiritual walk could be guilty of at this moment. If you were to read further in Matthew chapter 11, you would see that the people of the day tried to discredit both John and Jesus. They called John, he said he had a demon, and they said Jesus was a glutton. So you don't have to listen to him. But we say, you can be Jesus if you want to. In fact, we believe you are Jesus. But don't interrupt what I'm doing here. And don't get in the way of how I choose to live. The problem is, I don't think that Jesus just wants to just sit in that chair. He's the Lord of the universe, and his gospel is not summed up in the words, just be quiet and be nice. He said, you come follow me. You take up your cross daily. And he told us that we should love the Lord our God with all our heart, our soul, our mind, and our strength, and then to love our neighbor as ourselves. And that means that God would be our first priority in our lives. And instead of asking Jesus to sit to the side and be quiet, we would be sitting before him saying, Lord, what do you want me to do in every circumstance of my life? And he told us, he said, if you love me, you will keep my commandments. And he gave us the church to be our authority, to safeguard the truth, and to give us moral guidance throughout the ages. Now, just to be clear, I'm not knocking the idea of being nice. I think that is a really good and important component of being a Christian disciple. And I'm blessed to have very good neighbors, and I should work on being a better neighbor myself. Well, the mission of John the Baptist was to point us to Jesus. And the mission of Jesus was to win our salvation. Advent is a season of hope because the prize is heaven. And how we respond to Jesus is going to determine whether or not we achieve that prize. And remember that Jesus told us that everyone, the least of who enters into the kingdom of heaven, is more significant, is greater than John the Baptist was when he was here on earth. In the Bible, in the book of Revelation, chapter 3, verse 20, it says that Jesus says, behold, I stand at the door and knock. If you will open the door, whoever opens that door, I will come in with him and dine with him and he with me. So we hear the door knocking. Christmas is right around the corner. And if we were to peek out there, we'd look and we'd see Jesus. He looks like the Messiah, but we know he's the Messiah. So I think it'd be a good thing to ask him to come on in, to sit with us and share a cup of tea. And then rather than trying to set him over in the corner, maybe we should be handing him over the keys to everything that we own.